about that too. So not that I'll leave the words or the activities, I just role will shift. So sort of adjusting.
Hey,
Oh, you can come sit. Come sit with me. Okay, yeah.
as you can imagine.
Avoid me when they start talking.
Sometimes they send Justin stickers. Not about talking.
Yes.
Well, welcome back.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I was at a conference last week
Was it good?
it was good.
Productive?
It was productive. I learned a lot. Made new friends. Michelle and Steve will not be here this evening.
Sean and Steve. Hi, Rich. Hi, Megan. Hi, Doug. Hi, Jillian.
Hello.
Let's have everybody.
My favorite.
Donna, you definitely have a
We have a
quorum, but you don't have Donna.
Yeah. Looks like it.
Especially with some. We'll give it another
Yep.
minute, everyone.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us.
You have the Word version?
I don't know.
I sent it, the Word version was last week, but just in case. If not, I can send it to you. It's opening.
I saw your email.
Yeah.
Connecting with that certain individual. I
Oh,
do that.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yeah.
It pinned me in the council room for the night. I was like, oh, okay.
Right.
I don't actually have an attendance because my computer is not connected to the drive. Cool. Let me check my email list to see who's not.
Right?
Hey,
Hi. Alan.
Alan, nice to meet you. I met you.
Yeah, I did want
Wait a
to.
second, you didn't do it. I'm sorry. I apologize. You did. You came
Don't
in.
apologize.
I was and this
I
is
like
one of
mine.
our coworkers.
Yeah, we were both.
Your whole-
His whole family.
Yeah.
All there.
Yeah.
Oh, she got dogs or cats and they were.
Yeah, we do. Those, but I would have brought them along. Right?
Oh, hi, Donna.
Hi. Am I unmuted here or what?
I can hear you and
No
I
echo?
don't hear a previous meeting going on, which is cool.
Yeah.
Like you were playing us last time. I don't know what was going on, but I was like, boy, one thing that's more grating than my voice, I don't know what else it would be. So now listening back. All right, well, it looks like we are at 6:03. We do, I believe, have a quorum, so we will call this meeting to order at 6:03 PM for the City of Westminster Inclusivity Board May meeting. Good to see everyone. Welcome. I'm glad to have you all. To officially confirm, Seth, we do have a quorum for the board, correct? Okay. All right, so we will move into old business. The first order of business is reviewing and approving the previous meeting minutes. I do apologize because I am not Seth. I may have to apologize for that every single day for many different things, but we did get the meeting minutes out. We did also have confirmation that a YouTube video would be of the recording of this as it is recorded is sufficient evidence to post. But when Seth's here, the minutes will be so much more appreciated. When Seth's not here, we may just have to depend on the YouTube video. So anyway,
Maybe.
yeah, transcripts. Yeah, maybe
Should we scrutinize those notes? 'Cause
Yeah, I was very conceptual, but I think I got everything. It just looks like you're monologuing, right? Like it's like Miguel. Okay, so we have the first order of business to approve meeting minutes from last meeting for April.
to second that motion.
Okay. It's been motioned and seconded. Any discussion on the minutes themselves? Okay, hearing no discussion, all in favor of approving the April meeting minutes?
All right.
Okay, Rich, I see your hand. Doug, I see your hand. Megan, thank you. Donna, okay, I see Donna's hand. Jillian, I don't know if I saw your hand.
There it goes.
Okay. Does anyone oppose the minutes? Is there anyone who would wish to abstain? All right, moving on to next order of old business, the Senior Resource Center and the city's volunteer program. I wanted to refresh you all a little bit. The intention was we were going to create a subcommittee to kind of move forward and help us with outreach pieces, kind of look at the ambassador program, the thing that Michelle had talked about a while ago, Miguel had brought up and others. And Cody had some maybe additional thinking around how we could streamline that. So we did halt it a little bit to kind of move into sort of what we were thinking in discussion and what she had thought about helping to streamline so that hopefully this month we could move forward with that. So there was an intended purpose for that. And I meant to communicate that with you on a personal order of business. My father passed away a few weeks ago. So I was not able to communicate as much or as readily as I could have. So I do apologize, but it was a good timely piece because we're in a space now to where we can move into this direction. So Cody, I'll give it to you.
Well, so the first thing I did was ask our volunteer coordinator, Martha Hines, about the current programs that might be able to serve seniors and how they sort of run that program. So I asked, that was the first question, which which ones serve our residents? Because we have so many. So snowbusters and mowing with cops, and then they have a yard work help for seniors. And then I said, she said residents, so in order for a resident to get that, they contact the volunteer, like that service, they contact the volunteer coordinator and she matches them, or the team does. I think they have an application that they fill out. And then if it volunteers for these programs, they would do the same thing, submit an application, they get vetted. I think they go through a background check. Yep, they do. That's what my next one was. They have to pass an interview, go through a background check, and they have to be over 18 and have 3 references. Those at age of 16 have to have a parent legal guardian too for that. So then I asked if the city had considered anything like pairing seniors with volunteers to help with yard work or errands or anything specific like that. So she said the same ones that already happen, right? The snowbusters, the yard cleaning up with cops, and the other yard work help. So those are those programs. And she said that we also have Via Mobility. That's the one that we sometimes talk about with Councilor DeMont. Apparently we do have access through the county, even though Westminster's not funding it anymore. So it's still an option.
Okay.
And as a service of that, and they can help, with the errands for the actual individual to be going back and forth. Then I also, yes, sir.
So when you said it's, yes, okay, through the county, is it just Adams or what happens in Jeffco?
Adams is what she said, and there's a reference on the website. I think if you call them, if you were a senior seeking that and you called, they would help determine who was supporting that or sponsoring it. Because I said, should this even be on our website? But apparently it is still a service that's available. So there might be other funding. So you can call the number and they can give you the details and the requests. So then continuation of that, my thought was there are other events and activities happening in the city. If and I think some of you talked about that a little bit last month, pairing with. So I asked our GIS folks to tell us to ask if there's a way to identify which neighborhoods have large populations of seniors. And so they were able to give me a few of them. So there's 31.6% of the neighbors are over 65 in Cedar Bridge, Legacy Ridge East, Meadowlark, Savory Farm, and 23% over the age of 65 in Highland Greens Each, Skyland Village, and Windings.
The windings.
Windings, thank you. That was duh. So that's kind of a cool thing. Maybe if there are things going on in those areas, or maybe that's a way to sort of spread the word. Also, I shared a couple of our assistance programs. We have a full assistance programs like webpage where you can look for anything. And then we have a program called Westy Live Better that Kate Scarbuck manages that website. And that's specifically for people who are experiencing more of a need financially. But I think there's some senior things there too. So maybe we could consider working some of those into whatever, maybe materials or promotions you wanted to do. So
What was your name again?
Kate Scarbuck.
Kate.
SKARBEK.
Great. So I'm kind of wondering, since a lot of times I'm down in historic Westminster, and a lot of the people that I'm working with, like at the churches, elderly people,
Mhm.
I mean, older than me. Yes, there are. So, but that didn't show up like
No,
Park or,
mm-mm. Of these, if there were just those 8 neighborhoods, and the way the GIS specialist found it was, she used the marker of anybody, 20% of the population was 65 years or older in those 8 neighborhoods.
in one of those neighborhoods.
So I think maybe what we see, anecdotally in a neighborhood versus what the census is telling us might not always align, right? And maybe that the individuals in historic Westminster maybe are out and about a little bit more, or more active, engaged in that community, because that's a pretty active part of our community. I mean, maybe there's some other tie there, but at least when it came to the census, that's how that lined up. So,
Well, and I think that still gives precedent to what we had been talking about, is creating that subcommittee of people that want to move forward and start looking at outreach in areas of the city. We have data that suggests that these are maybe populations in which we have persons who are aging. That being said, there are plenty of persons who are aging in every neighborhood, right? So it's just a matter of that could help us start framing those pieces. I think on the larger, for me, the larger vision scale goes back to, I think, what Miguel was talking about a little bit. And, how do we get ourselves out into these neighborhood centers? How do we get ourselves out into the cultural centers? And one of the things we had talked about as part of the charge of that group, which we recommended to move forward. So that continues. And Cody, thank you for those data, because I think those data will help even further drive that conversation when that subcommittee comes, is when we actually, and we talked about this before you left, like even having our meetings out about, like, so for example, I see Donna's hand. We'll get to you, Donna, in just a second. But for example, going to Donna's, space and maybe having an inclusivity meeting there one month, and then, shifting around to different parts of the neighborhood too. I think beyond, and many other persons' points here last month and in previous months is, how do we get into the community? How do we become a resource? Because we can't expect people to come to us in this space, right? So, and we didn't see that there were any red flags with that, as long as we navigated like building usage and
Right.
facility requests. and
yeah, I would
stuff.
say if you want to do other locations, that's totally fine. But because at least a few of your members are primarily remote,
Sure.
we want to make sure that those were, it was accessible
Yeah.
for those. Yeah.
Okay, Donna, thank you for your patience.
Thank you. I just wanted to piggyback a little bit on what you had said. We have had the city council meet in our facility in the past. So I think that would be a great idea to maybe go around to some of these various ones. And then a question to Cody, do you suppose in that information, that data that you got, Cody, they excluded retirement communities like where I live and like San Marino and those? Do you think it was only in homes as opposed houses, separate houses, as opposed
Yeah.
to any of the retirement communities? Because I would think that there would be, I don't know.
I think you're right, Donna. I think they likely excluded
Right.
facilities or, developments that are specifically for seniors. Not to say that those don't exist, and we can certainly add those to our list.
So to piggyback, it was water data. It's pretty much where that GIS data comes from, or?
It was census data.
Oh, census data. Yeah, it's interesting too, because I mean, yeah, you just don't know if you're capturing like, families that are like multi-generational family setups and stuff like that. And that might be why those numbers appear lower even compared to historic or southern Southwest Westminster. Something to consider.
And there is a body of evidence that suggests that people hide from census in data times, when collection times. So we also acknowledge that those are incomplete data sets too. So Donna, I'm sorry, did you want to add?
That's okay. I just wanted to add, since we're talking about this, we had a town hall meeting today at Covenant Living, and our executive director does this once a month. And interestingly enough, we had a question asked about the lack of quote unquote diversity among the population, among the people who live at Covenant Living, and what could be done about it. So I'm sure I would have no problem being able to set up a meeting of this August group if you wanted to do something like that. Cody's point about some of us, not being or doing it, virtually might create some issues. But I just want to know that I want you to know that I wouldn't have any problem, I don't think, asking that. And I think there would be a real open opportunity for us to maybe even meet at Covenant Living.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
Any other questions, thoughts, or comments on this topic? Okay, so just to kind of reiterate, then we will certainly then move forward with these data to meet in that subcommittee. If you are interested in that, I know maybe a few of you had connected with me, but if you could please email me, let me know. I will set up a meeting in the next probably week or so. I want to get this going. We're a little bit behind, and I do take some responsibility for that just due to my kind of silly schedule the past few weeks. That being said, good to have these data to move forward. So yeah, thank you, Cody.
Mhm.
All right. Moving on to our next topic of business, which I believe is community build. No, it's
Building community.
yeah, building
Yep, good
community.
job.
Thank you. All right. Did you have something you wanted to add in this? Okay. I think this kind of extends to what we were talking about earlier, is how do we do some of the outreach pieces? And we may have some time today to where we can really kind of brainstorm and do. We don't have anyone, I don't think, that's coming in as a guest. So we could maybe brainstorm some things about what we could do in addition to, not necessarily jumping on the work that a subcommittee might do, but using that time just to really engage. How can we really more engage with the community? I do believe the conversation last month was for me, it was very framing, and it was very beneficial, and how we could potentially move forward and drive our own envisioning to how we connect to the city's strategic plan in a way that is inclusive and diverse, and celebrates that. So, cool. Questions, thoughts, comments on that?
Sorry, I'm getting confused. Were we due to provide some feedback ideas to Pro Temp Demont, or is that we missed that window already, or?
No, I believe he said we still had some time, right, to do that for the strategic piece? Or did they?
They've done their retreat. And he'll be here shortly. That's who I was texting.
Oh, okay.
He's finishing up another board call. So they finished their strategic plan, mission, vision, guiding principles, and their strategic priorities. And on Monday this past week in post meeting, they talked about the objectives that would be part of those. And then that will go to them for final approval pretty quick here. And then staff will help build in the tasks related to those objectives. And I think they review those as well.
And Miguel, you're right, though. He was going to present some of the things,
Okay.
like our final feedback tonight. That was part of what our
Okay.
meeting was going to be about this evening.
Oh,
Okay,
perfect.
Yeah.
So he should be here soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, I just was losing track.
Yeah, I
There's
know.
so much we talked about.
Lots of feedback, yeah. Counselor Demott is not here, obviously, so we'll move forward, but I do want to, before we get into new business, do you want to make a note of Kate and the reasoning? Kate here? So Kate Cook, for those of you that don't know, is an amazing human being, has just come off of basically was the logistics coordinator in person of our, I think, very successful Westminster Arts Week, given that she had less than a year to turn it around and get it in order. And I thought that's such a great job. And Cody and Kate have some information they would like to share. So.
Yes. Kate in partnership with our library services manager, Amy Rhoda, is going to take on the staff liaison position for this board and allow me to move off. And we're trying new blood in a number of places, but also give me some space to focus a little bit more on my current responsibilities in my job. And so that transition is starting to happen. So Kate's here tonight, and we'll start meeting over the next few weeks to talk more about transition and what that looks like. but Kate wanted to be here and was available, and she's actually asked to do this. She volunteered, I heard downstairs. So pretty great. So she will, oh, there's Counselor Demott. So Kate and Amy will start to be the folks that you see in the room as your staff resource.
Amy Rhoda.
RODDA. Counselor Demott, thank you for joining us. I just want to let you know what we just said. Kate Cook and Amy Rhoda will become the staff liaisons for this group over the next few months. We're focusing more on my responsibilities and my role, and giving an opportunity for new staff representation. So.
Okay.
And you
Great.
came at the perfect time.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your service.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
We'll miss you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm not that far away. I'm still right here.
Oh,
no.
I'm sure I'll still be causing you trouble, so.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't think I'm leaving you and your
Yeah.
6 colleagues anytime soon.
Well, no, thank you, Cody, for everything,
Oh,
and I'm excited to work with you, Kate.
I'm excited. I've been good working with you guys, so I think it's fun to take.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Hello, Mayor Pro Tem Demott. How are you, sir?
Lord Almighty child.
Good. But
Oh.
it still confuses people. I just get to be Counselor Demott now.
Yeah. Oh,
I do have a short window tonight though, guys. So I don't know what you went through, and I apologize for being late. I had another board meeting that went about 22 minutes over. So if I could give you guys a quick update, and then if you have any questions for me, and I hate to cut and run on you, but I wanted to make sure I was here because I did have some good news for you guys, and I was really excited as we went through our kind of the follow-up of the strategic plan. And so they have the different bullet points of like our vision statements. And so one of the things that I really feel came out of this group is and sharing it with council through strategic planning was a specific call out around working with the nonprofits in the senior area. And I don't remember exactly how it was worded. I'm sure that Cody can get that for you guys once they finalize it. I don't think that they probably have yet because we just did final tweaks on it Monday night, and then the next part of the process is going to be the actual action plan that they come up with. So they'll have specific action items that will go under each of those, kind of call them different buckets. But I thought you guys would be pleased to know that made it on the board.
great. Thank you
Yeah.
for that update. I know, Counselor, when we had talked last, I know you don't have a lot of time. We had talked about maybe just kind of getting a feel for, I know you were championing a little bit of the idea of inclusion and diversity and everything we've been talking about as you were sort of setting out the objectives to help us meet the strategic planning and the vision and mission. So I know we were originally going to talk because there's still a finalization process on that document, correct? And when is that timeline?
I'm not sure. I think it'll probably be at least a month or so before they come back with it. I have to imagine staff's probably already working on action items. And like kind of as we talked through things on Monday night, they not only were, we weren't only just tweaking, but there were kind of some themes and ideas that came out of it that I think probably will guide some of the potential action items that they come up with. So, and I do know that, I haven't got a direct response yet on some of those asks as far as what would it look like for us to specifically do some volunteer items around, this kind of subject matter. And so I would hope that that's still forthcoming. I know that I've put it, out there to the council and staff, and there was no pushback on that idea from council. So at this point, I'm just waiting to kind of see that final list of action items, the proposal of action items really at this point. And typically they also usually will look at current action items and kind of go through and see how they fit the new layout and whether or not there are ones that should be dropped off or not. Or ones that, just kind of how they line up with the new council's goals and vision. So that's gonna kind of be forthcoming as far as that, but I'll continue to make that part of the conversation till, we get some sort of answer about what that might look like.
So there may still be some time to like, maybe at our next meeting with you, carve out some time to where we could kind of just have some time to review the most current itineration of that plan and then maybe just talk through a couple of
Yeah,
ideas.
yeah, and probably a good takeaway from this meeting is whoever would be the appropriate staff member to work with the policy and budget team to see if we can't get either just a draft of that from Monday's changes, or what's going to come back to us just to circulate to the group so you guys can kind of start looking through that and thinking about, maybe a couple things that you'd want. I would, I know that this group has big goals, and that's a good thing, but also maybe narrow it down to two or three things that you might want to propose to us. That's similar to what council goes through. Council's the same way in a lot of ways. We have a lot of grand ideas, and there's only so much staff can A, control, but B, really feasibly do. So we want to make sure that, we're giving them achievable things that they can go after. One of the other things that I think is cool that this group might like out of the, our whole strategic planning this year that was a little different is there was a lot of talk around, and I don't remember how it was exactly phrased, but there is a kind of a pillar in the new plan that is really specifically around the organization and driven around things that the organization needs. And, as we discussed, one of the things that they talked about that was really insightful and interesting is, when they have something like they need more staff or they need tools or they need equipment, where does that fall in the plan? Because the plan from our perspective is about the community, but at the end of the day their job to serve the community does depend on resources and people. And so we worked with staff and kind of put it out to them like, what does that look like for you guys? And I think that um from my perspective, and obviously you could ask, you guys know enough staff members, you could ask them, but it seemed like it was really well received and appreciated that, that we gave them some ability to put something that was meaningful in that light, but also I would imagine some buy-in for it, which I think is really important when, the council comes forward with a, hey, here's a strategic plan, now go do these things. Like, the fact that they get to be part of that, not that they're not all the time, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just a portion that's really around the people that run the organization for the citizens. So that was something that was a little bit different, and I thought that was pretty cool that we were able to kind of add that this year.
Nice. And for those of you that are on your computers, Cody has shared out just kind of an overall draft of the strategic plan and some of the objectives that have been articulated as of current, correct? Mm-hmm.
So quick question on that, Councilor Demott. Does that mean like staff's goals will directly be aligned to the strategic plan line items? Like, will it be like ticked and tied that?
Yeah, it is, and it always has been. And so that
Okay.
last bullet, you see that there, that organizational vitality.
Yeah.
As we started talking about it, that hasn't been a thing that's really been there at this level. So when staff would have initiative that and I can't think of a specific example, they gave us some, and I'm just drawing a blank, but when they would have those things, then they would have to try to link them to, our goals. And I think that the council agreed that, the vitality of the organization is actually really important to everything that we do. And so we thought that it made sense for it to have its own bullet point versus them trying to figure out where things lay. I will say that there's oftentimes overlap, and I'll give you an example. Like, for example, we added more firefighters recently, and part of that was actually, if you look at it, there's a cost savings because of the amount of overtime that we were having to use in order to fulfill the needs of the city. But you could say that could fit under the vitality bucket, but it also fits under, I'm trying to think which one, the health and safety one.
Community
And
health and
they're
safety.
you could probably also put it under, you know, a couple of different, and that was a lot of the discussion. Actually, we're splitting hairs through a lot of the conversation about where things fit. So, a lot of overlap, but to, you know, yes, it does do that, but it kind of always did do that. This just gives an extra bucket that is specifically around the vitality of the organization. I'll give you two other examples, like kind of what we've done with the unionization of the two public safety units. I would think that that would fit under that last bullet if it had existed prior to now. So, or you know, when we do increase in benefits or any of that stuff, that's specifically a goal that we're saying we think it's important to, you know, attract the best and the brightest and to take care of them while they're working for the city.
Rich, please.
Yeah, as you talk about organizational vitality, and as I read it, equipped and supported to deliver outstanding service to everyone in Westminster. A couple of years ago, this group talked about encouraging or hiring bilingual or multilingual employees, and kind of didn't go too far, but that would certainly seem to fit under there.
You know, that's interesting you say that though, because I guess I would have, and I think sometimes this is where things don't always flow down, and I think it's also why I think it's important that we do these liaison things, because I often will, like, even if I don't like call it out, sometimes I just take points from these conversations and they end up as part of what we do. But I would say, like, specifically that I actually do think that that charge has continued on in just some of the different things as far as resources for people who aren't, you know, English first language has increased quite a bit in my time. And a lot of that was because you guys, you know, pushed for that. And I think that even with new council members, they see what has been done and they want more. That was a specific call out actually from some of the counselors Monday night that, you know, okay, well, we are doing good about this or that. And it was like, we need to, the call out was, we need to do more for Spanish speakers. And there were, I think, there was myself and maybe two or three others that said, yeah, and also Hmong and, you know, Russian was called out. There were a couple different ones that we know as council members, there's big populations in other areas. So, you know, why stop with just one? If there's other groups in our city that aren't being served because of language barriers, let's make sure that we try to accommodate that. And I really do see that as kind of an offshoot of seeds that you guys planted years and years ago. You know, not to get all philosophical, but I don't know if you've ever heard the story of like there's a certain kind of Chinese bamboo tree that you plant and you don't see anything for 5 years, but you have to make sure it's not disturbed. You have to make sure it's watered. And then 5 years later, it'll be 80 feet tall. So, I mean, those, you know, don't ever discount the work that you guys do, because in my mind, you did plant that seed years ago. And those are things that, you know, come to fruition later on. And that all, you know, starts with this kind of stuff, and how you guys might figure out 3 things that you want to try to go after that match up with a strategic plan. You know, even if one of them plants a seed for the future, I think it's worth the work you do.
Thank you, Counselor. And Cody had some add-on information.
Rich, I think those things will show up in the objectives that fall under strategic priorities, and the draft objective that went to council on Monday night, and I don't remember the edits, I'm sorry, said sustain the city's commitment to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in the organization's leadership, culture, and workforce, so that the city's services, policies, and practices support equitable results in the community. So it still lives in the plan. You'll see more. I don't want to send out the objectives because their council made changes on Monday night. So once they're ready for me to share, I'll do that. But I do want you to know that it does live here.
Yeah, the objectives, and that's where you see in one of the objectives specifically the thing around the senior stuff. And actually, I think, Cody, if they wanted to kind of see parts of it, you could look at the agenda memo from Monday, but to Cody's point, we did make some adjustments. But I don't think there was much adjustment to the one around the senior thing that I was mentioning earlier.
Great. Thank you. Doug, please.
Thanks. I was kind of curious how the action items are prioritized once they're all put together and approved. Because Councilor Demott, you mentioned looking at the ones that haven't been completed and should they just drop off or be realigned with this. And I'm just wondering if they were action items, why didn't those get done? And just how is that balanced?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So typically we get to do some prioritization on them, but we obviously also listen to staff and the community about things that are burning. And so it's like most lists like that. I think there's a combination of what's the highest priority, how what things are easy to accomplish. Sometimes there's low hanging fruits that we put things out and they knock them out before we even really get going. And then some of it is just timing and budget constraints. So, so the other thing that I would mention that I've seen years in past, like more like this comes up, I think, in a different angle almost every single strategic planning. I've heard like chef owned restaurants, more diverse restaurants. I've heard different, basically a variety of restaurants a different amount of ways over my 6 years and before that. um, that's a good example that it's a great thing that we'd like to go after, and we have economic development try to foster that and bring in options for folks that are either lend to diversity or small business or maybe chef owned minority chef owned kind of restaurants. There's a lot of different things that we could try to attract, but at the end of the day, if that business doesn't want to come to the city, we don't really have control over that. So there's some of those things that get put on the list that maybe is a high priority for council, and staff only has so much control over it. So it just depends, honestly, about why things do or don't make it from the list to action.
And Cody has some additional information.
The senior objectives, again, draft form, full disclosure, that relate to the work you've done and what Councilor Demott brought forth to the city council. There's two under access to opportunity. One says, in collaboration with partner organizations, develop a strategy to increase the involvement of older adults in the community with the goals of reducing social isolation, improving mental health, supporting aging in place. And the other one talks about engaging the community with all people. So this one says, enhance and diversify city-sponsored events and activities to encourage multicultural and intergenerational interaction, celebrate Westminster's diversity, nurture community pride, and increase community engagement and participation. So they're also there once it's, so I'll send you all the link to where it is on the website from the packet this week, but no, there's just some subtle changes that council sort of tweaked a few words in those more detailed objectives.
Great. Seth, did you raise your hand or?
No.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay. Thank you, Councilor Demott. Any other thoughts or questions or ideas? I know you've got a slim window this evening.
Two things I would mention is I hope that I see some of you, if not all of you, tomorrow night at the town hall. And then that's a budget town hall, which is something a little bit different that we haven't necessarily done before. And then for me, next week is my policy and Pilsner. So Thursday night, Cocopelli's 6:30. If any of you want to join me, we'll be there from 6:30 to 8.
Great. Thank you, Councilor. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate what you do. We'll see you next time.
Very soon. Is anyone planning to be at the town hall session tomorrow night? I know that I'm working tomorrow evening, so I can't. Well, we'll just maybe take the notes, figure it out. We'll go to the Pilsner and policy and Pilsner with Councilor Demott, and he'll fill us in maybe next week. So, but if anyone can make it, I think one of the things we talked about is trying to do our part to try to maybe represent, not that one person has to attend all of these events, but really try to represent in a way that's like, we're there and we can bring some of that information back to the community. That's part of the ambassador model.
Michelle will probably be there.
Oh yeah, Michelle will probably be there. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, good point. Thanks, Miguel. Okay, moving into new business proclamations, Juneteenth and Pride.
Now's the time to decide if you'd like to do those. Council approves all the proclamations that are submitted. So if you'd like, I'm happy to ask the city clerk's office on your behalf to poll council to see if they're okay with both of those proclamations this year.
Okay,
And is there a way to contact? I mean, are there groups that can accept?
Yes, we don't actually, well, the group would be you or people you bring with you.
so it feels like this would be a call to order for a recommendation to.
Mhm. And
move
you could
forward on
separate them if you
proclamations.
want.
Yeah, so if we could maybe separate the proclamations out. So is there a motion?
Second the motion to separate them.
Okay, so Donna, you had the first motion, correct?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, a motion to move forward with the Juneteenth proclamation. Okay, now we can open that for discussion. Hearing none.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
yep.
comment. We put a lot of work into those, so I mean, it just seems like rinse and repeat every year because they've been vetted in my books. So
Mhm.
we'll probably be having the same conversation about Columbus Day, come Columbus Day time of year again. But we'll see.
I would hope. The one thing I would say is I do believe that yes, we are going to be making sure we get to review the
Yeah.
drafts of those, because the one thing we did was to ensure that they were separate. They did not.
Yeah, but we'll come. We have plenty of time.
I should also clarify, Juneteenth is its own and Pride is its own.
Right.
Those weren't going to be combined.
Right.
No,
It's just-
that's not what I'm saying.
Okay, I just-
I'm just saying, like,
Okay.
we've done this like years and years of hard
Yes.
work. Like, let's hopefully just rinse and repeat these things, right? Like, is how I feel about it.
But the council has to.
As opposed to,
Yeah.
Yeah, right, others, yeah.
yes,
Gotcha.
I get you. With you, Miguel. What seems to be easy I get it. But it is a very symbolic, stands for those persons who, really identify with that sense of belonging and seeing themselves represented and heard and seen. So, yeah, I agree. Doug, yes, please.
Thanks. To Alan's point, and also what you just said, is there a way we can get leaders or representatives from the communities to come and accept rather than just having us and the board do it? I think it would be more meaningful to those communities that way.
Yeah, I think, Doug, we as a board who's sort of sponsoring the proclamation, if this were to move forward, we can reach out, we can help support, we can bring those leaders to the table and invite them to come and either accept the proclamation on our behalf with us, or at least to support that acceptance of proclamation. So yes, I think to me that's a powerful statement. It doesn't make much sense for one person just to come and represent and try to accept a proclamation when no one else who actually could really feel emotionally connected to it could be a part of that too, and they haven't been included. So
Yeah, and just a logistics thought. Like, can we at the start of the calendar year say, hey, these are the proclamations we want to like move forward for the year, and then have them weigh in on it, and then that way it gives us more runway to plan to bring people.
Yeah.
I mean, like this, like coming up on it a month before each one, this is hard logistics wise.
I agree.
I believe the council reviews them in smaller chunks, like quarterly, I think is what the clerk's office has been doing. So, because it's pretty robust if they did all at once. So either when they come up as a request or by the ones that are regularly scheduled as a quarterly. So I would suggest what?
Can we ask just to submit all of them in January and see what happens?
For their time schedule, I think they'll still do them sort of incrementally. So what we
Okay.
could do is say that these two come in June at the same time every year. We could ask in March, right? And
Okay.
so then what comes in October, we could ask in
So at least a month.
summer. Yeah, we can put more space around it.
Okay.
Yes.
And I don't see why we couldn't identify a year
Oh,
ahead
yeah.
Right.
what
absolutely.
we want to do and then just hit the timeline. So like we might be operating on a different time frame, but then when the time comes, we know that we're going to push this forward.
Yep.
And we've already started making connections in the event that the council.
Absolutely.
Rich and then Seth.
Yeah, I just wanted to back up what Doug was saying. Last year, I was there as a representative of this group. But Obi Asiati presented the Juneteenth proclamation to me, and it just felt weird. I am from Texas, but I don't, as far as I know, have any enslaved ancestors who were freed at that time. So it just felt weird. We really need to have someone who's representative without being a token.
Yeah.
That's hard. But yeah, it really means a lot more.
Thank you, Rich. Seth, and then I see Donna's hand. Seth.
So just a quick question, could we ask Councilor Obi for a recommendation?
I mean, I would not be against that.
There we go.
Like, I know.
The question I had is, do we have a list we can put together right now of what the proclamations are? So June, we have Pride and Juneteenth. What are the other big ones that we usually?
The only other one you did last year was the Indigenous Peoples and Columbus Day. In other years, you've done immigration, heritage, I think immigrant recognition. That's a month. And
Did Jewish Americans, and I know they had to postpone it because they couldn't find.
but Inclusivity Board didn't.
Oh, it's not us?
That was,
Okay.
yeah, someone else.
Okay.
Someone else made that request.
I see.
Do we recall which months those other two things were in?
And Indigenous is.
Indigenous was in, yeah.
October,
October?
November. Mhm.
And I can't reach files. And I think the immigration one did 1 year as part of Welcoming America. I think that only happened one
And
time.
one.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
And I don't know what month that was.
So we have a list of ones that we often do now to refer to next year.
That being said, I mean, we could really look and determine maybe there are more that we could bring awareness to, and that could be something that as a board, we can, have as a standing item to where we come together and say, hey, we haven't recognized this.
Someone would offer up to the community if we go out in the community and have these meetings and say like, hey, like, how would you like us to recognize you? And if so, how and in which way? And then, would you mind being there to accept it if we are able to pull it forward? So
Love that. Thank you. Donna, please.
Immigrant heritage is also too.
Donna, you're on mute. I don't know if you can hear me.
she might just.
Yeah. I see your hand up, Donna. I want to make sure not to pass you up
I'm
if you.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I was muted. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'd like to call the question. We have a motion on the floor to separate these two. And if we make whatever decision we make about that, then I think the discussion about how many and how and so forth would be appropriate, unless whoever made the motion to separate them wants to pull their motion from the floor and we can come up with something all together. I don't know, but right now we do have that motion on the floor, which we probably should make some action on.
Donna, the motion, actually, we just motioned for Juneteenth. We did not motion for the next one. I think it was sort of
Oh.
naturally
But
separated.
weren't we just to separate them? We did that already, right?
Yeah, we'd already
Okay,
separated them.
okay.
The motion on the floor
Okay.
is to accept no, and it was a little confusing, so thank you for that point of order. The motion right now, as it stands, is to move forward with the proclamation of Juneteenth at this time. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you, Donna, for that, though. It
Well,
was a
thank you
little.
and sorry for the confusion.
No, you appreciate it. It's a good reminder.
And we
So-
found out Immigrant Heritage Month is also June. So as long as you're talking about June proclamations.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so we have Juneteenth on the floor. So is there any further discussion on this? Okay, then all in favor?
I
Okay, it looks like I saw all hands up. Is there anyone that is opposed? And does anyone choose to abstain? Okay, Next, does anyone want to call a motion for?
I move we recommend a proclamation to council for Pride Month.
Second,
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
All right,
Any opposed? And does anyone choose to abstain? So moved. And it sounds like there's another potential. Cody, do you want to talk again, just to make sure everyone hears us?
Yeah, Immigrant Heritage Month is also in the month of June. So if we were making this request to council, but if the clerk's office is doing that, we could include that one if you wanted to also sort of revive that one.
Okay, okay.
I think that sounds like a good idea. And when I seem to recall that when we did it last time, there were a general good feeling about it. It's nice to remind people that immigrants aren't other.
Yeah.
So I think that sounds like a good idea.
Okay, do we have anyone that wants to call forth the motion?
So move.
Okay, so moved by Rich and seconded-ish by several people, so yeah, looks like. Okay, is there any discussion?
so actually, one of the things, what technically is an immigrant? So are we saying somebody is a naturalized citizen? I mean, we have a lot of immigrants.
Yeah.
This was Immigrant Heritage Month,
Right.
which, you know,
Is Rich laughing because that's technically all of us?
yeah.
Gosh, you
Possibly.
got it.
Yeah. Basically.
Let me see if I can find the one from previous years.
And my son-in-law is an immigrant from Croatia. We could tap
Well,
in
and
if
my-
he's willing.
And my daughter-in-law is Colombian. She's
Uh-huh.
has her green card, but she hasn't become a citizen, but she's
Yeah.
still an immigrant.
Yeah.
Is there an organization that's based in Westminster that could
Yes,
be
there
representative?
is.
Yeah,
There actually is the Rocky Mountain
Remain,
immigrant.
Remain.
It's illegal.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's Remain. Are they
Yeah.
actually in Westminster or are they in?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
So
would be
basic-
perfect.
Yeah, basically, just to kind of give a general construct of a frame, just, so we know kind of what we're moving forward. National Immigrant Heritage Month will be celebrated beginning Saturday, June 1st. So we are coming upon it. The month is dedicated to recognizing the contributions and accomplishments of immigrants and their children to the United States. And that's what it says.
Yeah.
Very conceptual, broad.
Continue on for healthier, safer, more diverse, prosperous country. Acknowledge the importance of immigrants and their children to the future success of the United States. It's basically how it reads from a House Resolution 243, excuse me.
Thank you.
And I think that's the exact language in the memo from the previous.
I think we
One.
lifted that language,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
That was done in May 23rd of 2022 was the last time.
Any other? I'll go.
Logistically, what does that look like then? Does that look like all of these firing off at the same council meeting? Should we all would just maybe try to be there? So
I mean, I think that.
Rich isn't this sitting there getting all these for us?
Likes to
Right.
yes, logistically,
Okay.
it makes the most sense for all of you to come on the night, and since they're all happen in June,
Yeah.
be the last meeting. We might be getting too close. It's likely the last meeting in May, so that's actually the 20th. Sorry, I have to look. We might have made that a study session. It is a study session, so it's likely the first meeting or second meeting in June.
Oh, and
So,
okay.
yeah, we're a
So
little.
we'd want to get like calendar invites out or something. to
Right.
Make sure we kind of get all.
So once they approved it, she would tell me
Right.
which one it's, So once whichever ones are approved, all of them, let's say, then she'll tell me what night that happens, and then I can send that out to all of you and get that on the
Yeah, like
calendar.
a calendar invite would be awesome. That would help.
And then, last time, I think if you're good with how Juneteenth and Pride are written from last year, we'll keep those the same, and I'll pull the Immigrant Heritage Month one as well. It likely was, I can circulate it if you want to take a look at it, but we can use that language too from previous years.
I think what we had done in the past is we had just sent forward a draft just to make sure everyone was okay with it in review, and then we pushed it forward. So and gave everyone kind of an opportunity to give some feedback, wordsmithing wise. But yes, it was pretty standard language that we lifted basically from resolutions and statute and one. So, okay, great. Any further points of discussion around the motion that is currently on the table around Heritage Month? Okay, hearing no more discussion, all in favor? Is there anyone that is opposed? Does anyone abstain? So moved. Great. Thank you. Cody, when do you think we can have the drafts of those to our board?
I mean, I can send them all tomorrow, but doesn't mean council will approve
No,
them.
no,
But
but at
for,
least
we want to go for
wordsmith.
timeliness.
Yeah.
I can send them all out tomorrow.
Okay, great. All right. And then once council gives their approval or decision, then we will start sending out calendar invites so that we can get everyone there. Once we do know the official word, I mean, if you have people and persons that you want to maybe reach out to, just kind of tentatively and say, hey, if we accept the proclamation, and I think it's very clear that we're not the ones that it's not officially approved by our city council yet, but you can reach out if you know persons or people and say, hey, if you would be interested in serving as a representative, if we were to move this proclamation forward, we would love to have you sometime in June. So maybe work through that, right? Okay, great. Thank you all. Everybody good? Anybody need a break? We've been sitting a little bit. Right. Feeling okay? Okay. We don't have any subcommittee reports. We do have, going back, an outstanding subcommittee meeting to do, which I think we've been kind of talking about that as laying the foundation for the other ambassador piece. So I believe that, we were going to spend some time with Councilor DeMott tonight doing some feedback. It sounds like we've got a little bit more time to do that. But I don't know if I have any additional subcommittee reports or anything that needs to be said until we get that meeting up and running. So does anyone have anything that they'd like to add that we've missed in the subcommittee reports or updates? And then we'll move into community reports. Okay. All right. Thank you. Moving into community reports, what's happening? What are some things that are taking place? Councilor DeMott had talked about the study session or city hall, town hall that's going on tomorrow regarding budget. What are some other things that is happening that you know of that maybe we should try to represent and try to schedule ourselves for? So we'll just go around. We'll start with you, Rich.
Well, there's probably more. The first thing that comes to mind is the Baha'is of Westminster have just elected a new local spiritual assembly. I don't know if that's of intense interest or not. But
Well, is there something that maybe we could do to maybe do an outreach or something for them? Is there something that, or I don't know, we've talked always about sort of being in that official ambassadorship, like going to persons and different, peoples.
Yeah, probably not.
Okay.
There is for next year, something to keep in mind is Persian New Year, which is Nowruz. The Baha'is celebrate it, but it's an ancient Persian New Year, and there certainly are Persians who aren't necessarily Baha'is, but Persians who live in Westminster, and we should probably recognize Nowruz next year.
They did that proclamation.
Yeah, we did that proclamation this year.
Council
Council.
Did we do that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, good for us.
So that will be maybe as we talk to Miguel's point about looking at those
It
proclamations.
wasn't we didn't ask for it.
Oh,
A community member asked for it.
okay.
And it was approved, or asked a counselor for it, and the counselor asked for it, and it was approved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
Good.
that's the other way to do it. If, for instance,
Yes.
these proclamations, one of you wanted a proclamation on something, you could ask a counselor and they can make that request on your
Yeah.
behalf.
Okay, great. A good point, and I think something we need to think on our purview too. Thank you, Rich. Anything else?
Nope.
Doug?
Don't have anything right now.
Really at the moment.
Oh, Doug, who'd you call on?
Donna, no worries. Doug, nothing. Donna, you said you didn't really have anything. Is that what I heard?
That's what you heard.
Okay. Thank you. And
Thank you,
thanks for your
I'm sorry.
patience. No, but thanks for your patience navigating all the technology for everybody. The hybrid meetings can be a little challenging, but we appreciate you all. Jillian, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Sure, I'll take a stab at it. Well, I don't know. I don't want to be like, it's not really inclusivity, but that's not true. I was out at the park this weekend. The weather was lovely, and I had met some other moms from my daughter's school. And so we're like, hey, on Cinco de Mayo, let's all get together and eat tacos and have the kids play at the playground. And I was sitting there talking about an interesting conversation I'd had with a woman who works for conservation in Colorado at the state level, about that health and safety of public parks in terms of summer's coming, kids are going to be out, they're going to want to play in the water, they're going to be out all day. Do we know if mosquitoes are being controlled in the area? And it was like, oh, this is a really interesting question. Like, you go to a park, and if there's a stream running by, do you know if it's safe to let your kids play in that water? Do you know if it has been through a cow field, or if it's been diverted from a larger river that industrial runoff is being, legally, maybe not safely, dumped into? Like, when we go out in nice weather and we're in parks and, maybe not wild areas, maybe not national parks, but we feel like we're out in nature, how safe are we? There's not like a sign put up saying, sorry, my phone's going off. So it got me thinking. I was like, that would be an interesting thing to look out for, and maybe start asking around, like, how do you start looking for that information? And I guess that's only on my mind just because it's like, people with kids, we congregate at playgrounds.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very insightful and interesting point, and I definitely feel like has a lot of relevance to what we do. And I guess, does anyone know of any efforts to kind of identify some of those things? Like, do we know of any existing aspects that really determine sort of beyond the security of our parks, right? Like, just some of the, okay. Might be an interesting thing to explore in a future discussion, Jillian, about how we might be able to move something like that forward, or do some more research around what we could do to identify some of those things for those that frequent the parks.
I guess maybe I was thinking about it because we had discussions about doing cross meetings with other boards.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously that's probably something that would be more relevant if brought up to, the open space and, Parks and Rec board. But in terms of, making sure that the public places where people go, the dwindling third spaces in our communities, how do people get information about that?
Okay, great. Thank you.
At the very least, I think the reclaimed water usually has a sign.
It has,
But I don't know that any of the creeks or whatnot have anything like that.
Yeah.
I know, I was thinking about Big Dry. I don't think there's any sites down there.
Jillian, let's maybe, if you have any ideas in between now and the next meeting, where let's think about maybe just putting that up there to see if we want to move forward and try to cross connect with relevant boards, and that could be a great opportunity to do that. Cool. All right. Thank you, Jillian. Megan, do you have anything you'd like to add about something that's going on in the community, or something you'd like to share?
Disabled our mic.
There, it
Megan.
looked,
Oh.
I'm sorry.
I,
It was,
I got you. Hi. Yeah.
I was just, I'm still catching up in life from the past year that I've had, but with summer coming up and all of the city-sponsored events like movies in the park and farmers markets and that sort of thing, I feel like it's an opportunity where there's already city-sponsored events in various neighborhoods throughout the city that might allow us to at least put in front of different communities that we exist. Since I've joined the board, it's been this conversation about getting back and having the conversations in the community and with neighborhoods. And it seems like while we're still working on what that might look like officially, it could be an opportunity to get out and connect with people in different neighborhoods and communities within the city. I don't know what that looks like, but.
No, absolutely, Megan. And I think that's one of the reasons we've sort of brought ourselves back into, libraries and cultural affairs. And because, as you know, and I believe you were on the board during this time, but certainly those of you that have been on the board for some time know when we used to actually help support the entertainment options that would happen at like these city events and city festivals. And I think there is a marked interest in having us do some of that work again. And to your point, Megan, I do believe it would be nice, and we've talked about this, and I guess we just need to kind of push it forward to like list out the events that we should represent, and then just have, whether, I know we can't use Google, but if we have like just kind of a list of a central space to where we could all like sign up for events that we're going to represent as Inclusivity board members, and then we can kind of share out information. Because for us, it's either been like everyone can attend one event or no one can attend a lot of events. And so it's kind of, we just need to balance that out, to your point, Megan, a little bit more. And I would agree with that and concur. So, yeah. Thank you. All right, Seth.
Let's see. All the stuff I can think of is work stuff, and I work up in Boulder, so it's not particularly in Westminster. I guess I will just say that something I have seen, and I don't know how widespread it is, but something to be aware of and put in people's brains is growing awareness of neurodiversity as an important and relevant factor in DEI stuff.
Yes.
And it, like, the concept of it spreading more and things like that. So I think that's the thing that's going on in the community, is greater awareness is growing slowly. So.
Oh, thank you. No, I absolutely agree. I mean, I believe that there are so many people that are neurodivergent that we sometimes forget to normalize what that actually looks like, and I think we've had sort of these catch-all, very minimizing, marginalizing labels, and now we're really understanding that there's a more complex aspect to that neurodivergent thinking and approach to how we process things. So thank you. Yeah, I agree. That could be something that we talk about, like maybe how do we support that and figure that out. And I know that, I think it's been Alan and others who've talked about not certainly implied by neurodivergency, but as sort of a thing about mental health in general. What does mental health look like?
There's a lot of overlap.
Yeah, there can be, but not to imply that all people who are neurodivergent have mental health challenges, right? I just want to make that clear, but there is a lot of overlap for a lot of us. So that's a great point. Thank you. Okay, Miguel.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention there's a cuisine with cops on May 24th, City Park from 7 to dusk. So a great opportunity to get out and meet some representatives from the department and bring family and eat and talk and hang out. So, always worthwhile to come by and do that if you want. I think I'm going to try and check it out. I've done it. I think I did it a couple of years back. So I'm going to go and check that out, put it on the calendar.
Great.
And that's the same night as the first movie in the park.
Oh, it is.
So there'll be a lot of people.
Oh, there'll be a lot going on, all same spot.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
So we tried to combine
Yeah,
those events with the movies because the movies bring so many people out.
yeah, that's great. I mean, maybe even next year with more runway, like maybe somehow, how do we represent ourselves there, kind of to Megan's point. So,
One of the things I think we could do is the more of us that can maybe make it to that event. Sounds like it'll be pretty well received. So, yeah, pretty well attended. So thank you. Yeah, great. Alan.
So on the second and fourth Thursdays of every month, 1:30 to 3:30, at the Irving Street Library, there is a resource fair. And it's not huge, it's small. It's meant for people who have, we could say indigent. A lot of the unhoused people show up. This is something that Haley, is it Stevenson? Is that her last name?
I don't know her last name.
Who is one of our two homeless navigators, has been active in keeping this going. So it's a great resource thing. I often go looking for people that I have not been able to find on the streets, and I find them there. So, and it's kudos to Haley for keeping this event going. Just a couple comments. Rich, one of the people that from your Baha'i community, Starlet Rogers, every week she supplies me with 50 sack lunches of vegetables and fruit to hand out to the homeless out there. She does this on her own. She brings her husband into it, but she does this, and she's been doing this for months, putting these together and then giving them to me to take. And then I just add the sandwiches that ladies at Westminster Presbyterian Church put together. So there is community happening here. And definitely, I'm also with you, Megan, on us, us IB being out in the public. And I think that's something I really do look forward to seeing. And Jillian, when you were talking about more or less like safe streams, this is somewhat of a radical, but maybe not too radical because it might be happening. But proclaiming our rivers, our streams, our waterways as living entities. Some of the indigenous American groups have tried to do this. I don't know if this is something we would like to pursue in the city of Westminster by saying these are living things, you cannot dump into them.
And that could be another opportunity to maybe meet with boards, specifically that help with support on that and see if that could be a draft.
Because water is, they say, the next wars are going to be fought over for water, and we're doing that now.
Do we have I think we used to, do we still have a board of sustainability? Okay.
Environmental Advisory Board?
Yeah, environmental advisory board.
Yeah.
I have been hearing so many people so excited about the fact that rain barrels are now legal in Westminster. I've seen people going out and getting rain barrels or asking where they can get them, and it's like, hey, check your water bill. There's a whole flyer in there about when and where to go and get a water barrel, a rain barrel for your house to keep your flowers or your vegetables or whatever. Very good about being like, please, for the love of God, don't drink water that ran off of your roof. That's not a good idea, but you can use it in your yard.
Hopefully we'll get rain.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm done.
No, thank you. I want to also say that, in times of food insecurity, Oftentimes schools do serve at least a little bit of a gap in supporting that. As schools begin to wind down their official spring seasons. I know Westminster Public School, I'm sure Jeffco, there are specific pickup sites where they serve breakfast, lunch, and some sites do a late lunch dinner. Especially I believe for anyone 21 and under, but I do believe they've been starting to just not ask a lot of questions. It's just people come in. I'll get more information about that because, you know, this is something that I think has been a positive that's come out of the pandemic, that it wasn't about, you know, if someone's coming through the line, we're not going to check IDs. It's just going to be, we're going to give you food, you know, so, but that will be happening. So if anyone, you know, is struggling, just please send me an email. I'd be happy to get you the information and I can send that out anyway, just to make sure that you know where the pickup sites are. So that if people in the summer are needing food, a little bit more food security, we can get them connected with some of the schools if they're not hitting some of the other areas. So.
And let me just comment quickly on the second and third Thursdays of the month at the Westminster Presbyterian Church, 5:30 to 6:30. It's a community dinner. Westy Pres and I always forget the other name. There's another church that meets out of Front Range Community College. They are the ones who prepare the food, and Westminster Pres hosts it. And when they say community, they mean the community.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Anything else that we need to address for the good? Yes, Rich.
Yeah, I did think of a couple of other impactful things that are going on. One is Growing Home they're starting their annual community garden and can use volunteers for that, as well as they always need volunteers to help do things around their food bank. And they have a couple of fundraisers coming up. One's a golf tournament. If you're a golfer, you can go to their website and get more information. And then there'll be an art auction later on in the year as well, as a fundraiser. So, so there are things going on at Growing Home. Another is I should have remembered it because it's what I've been doing for the past fairly intensely for the past couple of weeks. The Jefferson County, well, probably both of the cultural councils, both for Jefferson and Adams County. I'm on the Jefferson County one. Are wrapping up their evaluation of science and arts groups for SCFD funding. And since we all pay income, or not income, but sales taxes, that impacts all of us, as well as what those organizations do. So there are more applications than last year, more organizations, and less money. So everybody's not going to get what they feel they want or need. But anyway, that's wrapping up, and that will definitely have an impact on our community.
Right.
I can say that Broomfield is doing it also because I have a friend who's on that board.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. Is Growing Home moving soon? Or do you know anything about that?
Oops. Sorry, I think my mic was going off again. They don't have a facility yet. They're still talking about moving, and some of their fundraising will help in that effort. But there's not a date or a destination yet.
Okay, thanks.
Right. Thanks, Rich. Yes, Kate, please.
Do you want city events?
Yeah, we can definitely, yeah, if
Okay.
there are city events that are coming up in the next few weeks. for sure.
So Armed Forces Day, on May 18th.
Okay.
Movie in the park and cuisine with cops. So the movies in the park are replacing neighbor nights that we tried that smaller scale. And that was okay, but it tended to be a little too small. So we'll be having all of the various engagement, the wagons, the trailers, all of that stuff will be at those. So that will be the 24th. Summer block party down in historic Westminster will be the 7th, June 7th. And then we'll have more movies in the park. So June 14th will be in the park.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. And again, that's part of, I think, how we get out to the communities is trying to attend these events at least, and then making connections so we can attend more events.
Yeah.
So, cool. All right, as a reminder, if you are interested in looking at that subcommittee, doing the work of how we move forward with the supports with the Senior Resources Center and other outreach events, please email me and I will set up a meeting with all of us in the next week or so. I believe that we are pretty much wrapped up, and please note that it's 7:21. We will officially adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great evening,
Thanks.
everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. You too, friends.
Thank you.
Alan, would you mind hitting the leave button on the little thing of the phone down there? It's red.
Should it change or anything?
Like we left.
Yeah, well, I think we're good.
Oh,
And then we can.
No, you did the right one.
The right one.